possible areas of cooperation on trade and investment. Second, economic cooperation between Indonesia and Latin America and the Caribbean have been growing in the past years. Indonesia is a $1 trillion economy and more, and within the 10 ASEAN member states, we have $3 trillion economy, and within Latin America and the Caribbean, we have close to $6 trillion economy that really offer significant potential to be tapped. With a market size of almost similar and increasing of middle income population in the region, we see no reasons why business potential should not be explored. I understand in the past, many of businesses in both regions are very much occupied with their immediate neighboring countries. This is logical, since most of the businesses still concentrating to tap the economic potentials in their neighboring countries. However, over the past years, we have seen not only growing interest to interact among businesses, as we have seen in our last year's INA-LAC Business Forum. This trend has been strengthened with increasing businesses' interactions to explore for the emerging potentials. For instance, over less than 2 decades, we have also seen an increase of trade values between the Latin America countries with China. The increase has been more than 200-fold. In addition, we have also seen a moderate increase of trade engagement between ASEAN countries, including Indonesia with countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. The convening of this business forum in the middle of the current pandemic reflects the existing strong interests we need to facilitate. I'm informed that the potential trade value resulted from this forum is expected to be double as compared to those of last year. Let us utilize this momentum to continue enhancing the interaction. And of course, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia is pleased to provide the digital platform to facilitate such interactions. The last and the third point is the current positive trends in our regions that open even greater potential to be tapped. Indonesia and ASEAN have been the fastest growing economy in the region, and it is continuing to increase except for COVID situation, which we hope would be addressed soon rather than later. It has a population of more than 650 million people, and growing urban middle class is expected to reach 50% of the population by 2030. This is a region with potential opportunities in the post-COVID situation. On the third quarter of this year, our economy rebounded from a contraction of 5.3%, moved to contraction of 3.4%. With a total GDP of ASEAN in the region of 3 trillion and continues to grow, the region offers additional opportunities when Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, of more than 2 billion population is completed and signed later this year. It is the largest ever trade agreement in the world. Many indicators indicating a quick rebound, and some of the sectors are still growing even during pandemic. On the other hand, Latin America and the Caribbean, with a total GDP of 5.7 trillion and a population of 646 million, is equally important for our businesses in Indonesia to explore. Due to the pandemic, all countries are still experiencing contraction, however. As both of our regions have comparable population size and are also experiencing rapid urbanization with a growing middle income population, I invite the businesses to explore and tap the potentials. The recent impact of the geopolitical dynamics, which is marked with trade war and the COVID-19 pandemic, have caused significant disruptions to the global supply chain. In this context, it is therefore an opportunity for us to tap the potential of diversification of the global supply chain in order to promote its resilience in both our regions. Indonesia stands ready to host the companies from Latin America and the Caribbean to utilize Indonesia as their production base for the regional market of more than 650 million population. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the second Indonesia, Latin America, and the Caribbean INA-LAC Business Forum is just one step where we are aiming to achieve more frequent interactions to explore opportunities in our regions. Indonesia is well situated to provide companies from Latin America and the Caribbean of their access to grow their opportunities in ASEAN. The Indonesian government has just enacted the Job Creation Law, or also known as the Omnibus Law. It is a single overarching law and very historical reform that we have conducted. One of the main objectives is to remove the problematic and duplicative legislation and simplify bureaucratic process as to improve ease of doing business and investment climate. The legislation is also for small and medium enterprises, the benefits of Omnibus Law. Some of the provisions covers, among others, ease of and assurances in establishing a business with the new approach, risk-based approach. It will connect the licensing procedure with the type of risk of business that will be open. More fiscal incentives and services for foreign investors. More sectors open for foreign and direct investment, particularly for priority sectors determined by the government. To conclude, I truly believe that there is an abundance of opportunities to forge for closer economic cooperation. This second Indonesia, Latin America, and the Caribbean Business Forum is an important platform to accelerate these links. I therefore look forward to many exciting initiatives and successful partnerships emerging from this forum and wish you all a fruitful day ahead. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now start the first panel session on navigating trade in the era of COVID-19 and digital economy, Indonesia and Latin America experience. Please address your comments and questions about our session via chat box to be later discussed during the question and answer session. This panel will be moderated virtually by Ms. Sinta Wijaya Kamdani, the Vice Chairwoman for International Relations, Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I would like also to invite our speakers who will be joining us through video conference. Mr. Kasan, Director General for National Export Development, Ministry of Trade of the Republic of Indonesia. Mr. Beni Kusumahatmaja Mustafa, the Vice President of Public Policy and Government Relations, Gojek Indonesia. Mr. Sergio Segovia, the President of the Brazilian Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, or APEX. And Mr. Pablo Lizana Allende, the President of Latin America Chamber of Commerce in Singapore. And I will now give the floor to Ms. Sinta Wijaya Kamdani as moderator of this session.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, those of you in Jakarta, and good evening for those of you in Latin America. It's a pleasure for me to moderate this panel. This is the first panel entitled Navigating Trade in the Era of COVID-19 and Digital Economy, Indonesia, Latin America Experience. The panelists today has been introduced. We will cover and discuss the challenges and opportunities of all the Indonesia and Latin America in both trade and investment, including digital economy. So we will address some issue regarding the market access from both sides. Also, some sectors that are priorities or potentials. Also, regarding the trade agreement, as you know, we have the Indonesian CLA-SIPA already, and there are much more trade agreements that's being explored today. Also, what kind of action which can be established by Indonesia and Latin America government to meet the expectation of the business people in boosting the trade and investment. And on the digital economy, currently playing a very big role in the transformation of economy in many countries due to COVID-19. I think this would be a very interesting discussion as well. I would like to also give a bit of context for today's discussion. As you know, the trade between Indonesia and Latin America is still far beyond our potential. I think we are only now 5% from all the total 33 countries combined. We have less than 5% of Indonesia total trade annually. And the trade always result in deficit for Indonesia. In 2019, Indonesia export to Latin America and Caribbean is 3.24 billion US dollar, or about 1.94% of Indonesia total export in the world. And Indonesia import is about 4.51 billion, or about 2.65% of Indonesia total import to the world. So while the export trend to be stagnated, I think the import is more positive trends, but all said with the numbers is still way too small. We all know that. So let's talk today and discuss how we can basically multiply these numbers. I would like to start the panel to invite our first speaker, Pak Kasan, which is the Director General from the Indonesian Trade Ministry, Director General of National Export Development. I would like to give the floor to Pak Kasan now. Thank you.
Ya. Terima kasih Bu Sinta. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Good morning to you all, and Your Excellency Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Pak Mahendra Siregar, Honorable all the finalists, and also the special moderator Ibu Sinta Kamdani, distinguished head of delegations, senior officials, business leaders and entrepreneurs, and all ladies and gentlemen. Before I deliver our trade policy issues and also the digital platform that we use for exploring the bilateral trade between Indonesia and Latin American Caribbean regions, I would like to extend my gratitude to our colleagues, Director General of America and Europe, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for its success in carrying out of this event, Indonesia, Latin America, and Caribbean, or INA-LAC Business Forum. I think which is very important for us to increase not only our cooperation on trades between both sides, but also other issues, including investment and also other sectors. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we know that the pandemic COVID-19 has already impacted all the countries in the world, including Indonesia and also maybe the Latin American and Caribbean regions. So as Indonesian economy last month and just released in this month for our economy, I think Indonesian economy in the third quarter is going better than the last second quarter. And also our trade performance for this year's until September is also going better because of our surplus more than 13 billion US dollars in this year. But if we look the bilateral trade performance between Indonesia and Latin American Caribbean, unfortunately, Indonesia has the deficit. The deficit is almost 1.6 billion US dollars. It means, I think, the bilateral trade between Indonesia and Latin American and Caribbean countries, as His Excellency Vice Minister also mentions, this is beyond our potential between Indonesia and all the Latin American and Caribbean countries. So despite our trade is deficit for Indonesia, I believe that Indonesian exporter and also the Indonesian products still can increase to catch up the potential market in these regions, because our product like vehicle and parts of automotives, suitable fat and oil, footwear, paper product, rubber and rubber goods, those products are our manufacturing products that already compete in these regions. And if we look the destination country in these regions, like Mexico, Brazil, Peru, Argentina, Chile, and others. So I think we already have the cooperations, including bilateral trade agreement between Indonesia and Latin American and Caribbean region countries. Just in August 10 last year, we already implemented bilateral agreement between Indonesia and Chile, for example. And today, we also have the planning for trade agreement between Indonesia and Mercosur in Latin America, and also bilateral with the Colombia using by PTA, Peru, and also the Ecuador. So this scheme for our trade in bilateral between Indonesia and Latin American and Mercosur, and also the Latin America in region in Caribbean countries, we have this scheme or this agreement between Indonesia with Mercosur and bilateral with Colombia and Peru and Ecuador. So will be increased our trades not only to make balance our trades, but also to increase our trades more than this performance of this year's. Because we have also the strategy to boost our export in the pandemic COVID-19, and also after this year or recovery time, maybe next year, we preparing our strategy, for example, to secure our main export and also the expanding our new export, including to these regions. And also we increase our competitiveness using by diversification of our product and also by trade facilitations. And also we increase and enhancing our export promotions, including to revitalize our trade representative office in region of Latin America and Caribbean countries. The other strategy is also we using the e-commerce utilization for this strategy to increase not only in domestic market but also for export. So another policy or strategy that we capturing the digital economy opportunity, we also provide the digital platform to our exporter and also our buyers in many countries. We provide digital economy information platform through the INA-export.id. So this is the platform officially for B2B platform, and also this is like single window service to the world for our exporter by connecting Indonesia exporter and the buyer all over the world. Our exporter and the buyers can utilize this platform by information about the product catalog, export, event and training, and also the inquiry from our buyers, and also the market opportunities information from this platform. As implementation of this platform, we are also just 2 months ago, we already established the utilize the digital platform in Amazon.com by using our diaspora in America to explore the market in North America and also Latin America and Caribbean regions. We finally concluded and provide 20 enterprise, small and medium enterprise for the 2 categories products. There are food and beverage products and healthcare products. And we established a 20 company in 100 products to provide in marketplace Amazon.com through the Archipelago store, who is the diaspora company established in Canada. But the market coverage is focused to not only North American market, but also for Latin America and also the Caribbean countries regions. The next, there our minister also mentioned about this using the digital platform. Tomorrow we will opening ceremony for our Trade Expo. This is the Trade Expo number 35 for Indonesia exporter and Indonesian products. That I think this is only part of our strategy to maximize the digital platform technology, because this event is provided only on virtual exhibitions, but for exporter and buyers can use this platform like looking for the products, business matching, and business forum and counseling, and the exporter and buyer can make deal and also make contact or make contracts between the 2 sides after this event. There are many products for our buyer, for our partner from Latin America and also the Caribbean regions. So please register if you are our buyers, because a buyer can look for the your product that you need through registration in www.tradeexpoindonesia.com. So this is our implementation of a digital platform that we are using in this year. So I think this platform and also our export policy or our export strategy could increase and explore the potential market that's still huge in these regions. And for the next future, we will also support the INA-LAC business forum like this as part of our strategy to penetrate these markets, this region in Latin America and Caribbean region. Last but not least, again, thank you to our colleagues from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also special thanks to all participants from Indonesian side and also the Latin America and Caribbean countries. And I do encourage you to take advantage of this forum to explore these opportunities and to collaborate and to gain benefit from not only our market, but also from the global market. So please, ladies and gentlemen, make this event become a big opportunity to increase your business. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Kasan, and I think we really appreciate how the government is trying to facilitate now with many of the platform also that's available. I think many businesses needs to understand how with the current situation COVID, I think having INA-Trade, having even trade export virtually will be very beneficial to, of course, enhance our cooperation. I would like to just state some housekeeping rule. Actually, I would like to ask each speaker to limit their sharing for about 5 minutes so that we will have the opportunity to have question and answers later. And I also would like to inform participants that you can address the question and answer in the group chat. And please indicate who you would like the question to be answered by. So please use the mechanism from the group chat to address some of your questions. So the next speaker will be Mr. Sergio Segovia. He has actually, unfortunately, can't join us. It's pre-recorded. So Mr. Sergio is the president of the Brazilian Trade and Investment Promotion Agency. So I would like now to give the opportunity to Mr. Sergio, please.
His Excellency Mahendra Siregar, the Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Ms. Shinta Kamdani, Vice Chairwoman for International Relations, Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's an honor to the Brazilian Export and Investment Promotion Agency, the Apex Brazil, participates at this relevant forum for the improvement of the trade and investment ties with Indonesia. Brazil and Indonesia celebrate almost 70 years of diplomatic friendship, a remarkable milestone. Moreover, both countries share common geopolitical characteristics and wide areas for further cooperation. I welcome this occasion as this event offers stage for Latin America and Indonesian leaders for exchanging views on business opportunities between our countries and regions. In our case, Apex Brazil concentrates on the strengthening of commercial relations between Indonesia and Brazil. The agency is non-profit, a collective of collective interest and public utility, linked to the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Our mission for the last 20 years has included mainly export promotion, capacity building programs, and foreign investment promotions, leading FDI facilitation in 8 priority sectors such as infrastructure, oil and gas, renewable energy, agribusiness, venture capital and private equity, health and life science, automotive, and aerospace. And overall, we support more than 14,000 Brazilian companies in their path to go abroad that represented last year 30% of the total Brazilian export, about $68 billion US. We work hard to gather relevant players, putting government and private initiatives at the same table. For example, through a partnership with 53 industry associations in a movement effectively oriented to the evaluation of our assets and to promote Brazilian business around the world. I'm glad that the agency's efforts have helped Brazil to ascend to the 6th global FDI destination last year, according to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. Brazil received $72 billion US in foreign investment. This growth shows investors' confidence in our economy in the long term. I used to say, Brazil is a country of millions of people and opportunities. As a great partner in the private sector and maintaining a privileged dialogue with stakeholders from both the private and governmental spheres, Apex Brazil supports programs and initiatives that result in advances and improved exchanges between our countries. Nowadays, as we all recognize, the pandemic affects us in every aspect of our lives, in an economic, social, and developmental ways. Our role as a trade promotion organization and as an investment promotion agency is expected to have an even more significant impact to mitigate these possible effects through our actions and solutions delivered for partners and clients. According to UNCTAD and the World Trade Organization figures, global FDI will decrease between 30 and 40% this year, a dramatic plunge in the global investments. Also, world trade is expected to drop between 13 and 32% in 2020, as the COVID-19 pandemic disrupts economic activity and normal life around the world. Despite the adverse circumstances and most of our events being postponed and canceled this year, Apex Brazil keeps working to provide qualified and precise information for investors in order to mitigate the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on their business in Brazil. We have joined the potential of new technologies to improve the efficiency of our trade and investment promotion and facilitation methods and solutions. Video conferences, hackathons, webinars, and live streams were offered to our partners and clients for engaging with multiple companies at the same time, offering new business opportunities. Furthermore, establishing new partnerships to promoting Brazilian business has been a key strategy for us. One result of our recent initiatives was the creation of a website exclusively dedicated to the coronavirus crisis, with information and market intelligence on the impacts of the pandemic, both on Brazilian exports and markets. I invite you all to visit this important platform designed by the agency at our website. Simultaneously, we have also prepared a survey for international investors and Brazilian exporters to identify main difficulties they are facing at this moment. With this information, Apex Brazil has developed new solutions to minimize external threats in our core business. Additionally, we have developing actions that can be carried out online with investors through the Apex Brazil offices abroad, 9 in total, and the Brazilian embassies. This cooperation highlights our interest in providing updated information as a tool to foster business opportunities abroad. Regardless of the increase in actions to tackle COVID-19 impacts around the world and in Brazil, Apex Brazil remains vigilant on FDI into Brazil. In this sense, during this year, we have assisted 100 120 international investors willing to receive qualified information to do business in Brazil. So far, we have helped almost 20 of them to operationalize their investments in the country, reaching in total more than $4 billion in investments announcements. Hence, from our endeavor to foster Brazilian business, UNCTAD and the World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies, WIPA, and the International Trade Center, ITC, have recently positioned Apex Brazil as a successful case in the world. We are glad to share this information with you. And so we are eager to deliver to our partners and clients efficient trade and investment promotion actions in order to strengthen their business during this challenging period. Closing my participation, I'd like to emphasize that Apex Brazil and myself are at your disposal to deliver a compelling vision for our joint future. I really appreciate the opportunity to participate in this distinguished meeting. Thank you very much. Have a great meeting.
Sorry. Thank you. I would like now to introduce our next speaker. Actually, we are shifting now to talk about more digital economy. As you know, Gojek is Indonesia's first unicorn, and we are very proud of this company as Indonesian. And it's also the first one who actually has expand abroad. Benny Kusumahatmaja Mustafa, which is the VP of Public Policy and Government Relations of Gojek, I think will share with us how Gojek also perhaps have intention to expand and work together with some of the businesses in Latin America. Can you please, Bernie, share your perspective? Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Shinta. Your Excellency, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mahendra Siregar, fellow distinguished panelists, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening for those watching from Latin America and Caribbean. I'd like to start by saying thank you for the opportunity to have me participate in this very important event. I'd like to keep it very brief in a sense and talk about the digital trend in Indonesia as a way to show opportunities for both companies, for companies in both regions to explore when it comes to opportunities in the digital space. So when we talk about the digital economy in Indonesia, I think the shift towards digital economy has began started out about 6 or 7 years ago, where we are starting to shift away from very commodity heavy economy. As you know, we export a lot of commodities such as coals and metals and soft commodities. But the shift towards the digital economy is therefore mainly driven by our huge market in terms of population. As you know, we are the 4th most populous country in the world, so that in itself lends itself a lot of opportunities. And secondly, also a strong push from the government in building out the necessary infrastructure when it comes to internet. So there's been increased internet penetration, and that's mainly driven by the increased usage of smartphones. So mobile internet is expanding rapidly in Indonesia, and combining that with a huge population that lends itself for strong growth in the digital space. And outside of those two, the other important aspect is, of course, having a vibrant startup community, having a vibrant community that is very engaged in entrepreneurial activities. And combining all these three elements, they are the main reasons, so to speak, that have underpinned growth in Indonesia's digital economy. And of course, there's still a lot of room to grow. I think penetration rate currently stands at about 56% or so. And with this huge population that we have here, the opportunity to further expand domestically is actually still wide open. But despite the above opportunities that I mentioned, there are actually a few challenges that kind of the forces behind inequality in Indonesia. First of all is the inefficiency on infrastructure and logistics. That has been a ongoing and long-standing problem here, but obviously strongly addressed by the current government. And that is inherently, due to our geographical challenges, given that Indonesia is a huge archipelago country spanning across 5,000 kilometers. So that in itself presents challenges in terms of infrastructure and logistics. Second of all is the lack of access to market, particularly for small, medium enterprises in order to sell their products. And again, that is tied to infrastructure problem. And the third challenge that we see is the underbanked population, lack of financial literacy, no access to banking facilities. And I think that's similarly also a problem tied to infrastructure, mainly banking infrastructure. But with these challenges that I just mentioned, actually, they come with opportunities for companies like us, right? Structural challenges such as infrastructure and logistics that are problematic for traditional industries that rely on distribution, which requires roads and bridges and so forth. Those actually offer some opportunities for companies like us. It kind of presents us with a problem statement that we can address using digital platform. In this case, when we came to the market, what we tried to address was the constant traffic problem by using our platform as a way for our customers to find alternative transportation method, right? In which case, the app-based ride hailing services was born out of this problem to address traffic jam, or to the problem of not having enough access to public transportation. And the other problem that we also address through our platform is the underbanked population, or the fact that not a lot of people have credit cards. So introduction of e-wallets is another way where we turn those problems, when we turn those challenges into opportunities in the digital economy. And lastly, of course, food delivery, again, it's a major challenge for people in cities like Jakarta, but combining this with the ride-hailing service and allows us to provide opportunities for people to order food from their homes in order to save time. So in many ways, the value proposition that the Gojek platform provides comes down to convenience and to saving times. But especially during the pandemic, this service, in particular the food delivery service, addresses an even more important need, which is to stay at home for health safety reasons. So with that in mind, I think going forward, it's not just about helping consumers deal or cope with the pandemic, but we're also supporting our partners on our platform, be they merchants or drivers, to cope with the pandemic as well. And the way we address this is by helping them grow as micro entrepreneurs. The pandemic has turned many people into first-time entrepreneurs. So our platform creates a supportive ecosystem whereby we are not only onboard them to our platform, but we also help them to do business, starting from the marketing perspective, from ordering, from communicating with customers, all the way to payments, to delivery, and even to the back-end process, like having tools to manage the cash flow. So over the past few months throughout the pandemic, we have strengthened that ecosystem to support the partners on our platform in order to do or to conduct business in a more professional sense. And so we work closely also with the government to provide trainings, particularly for the first-time entrepreneurs, and also to help them get access to funding. And I think what we think going forward is that this trend will actually continue. The trend that people are starting to move towards the digital platform will continue even after the pandemic has ended, right? More small micro businesses will want to move to the digital space. We have seen an increased trend over this throughout the pandemic. There's a huge explosion of people who are onboarding on our platform because of the pandemic. And as I said, going forward, we think that this will continue as well. So those who have been traditionally selling offline are continuing to start looking at online opportunities. And so Gojek's positioning themselves or ourselves to try to position ourselves to cater to this new demand. And of course, along the way, we're going to work closely with the government in growing this opportunity together. So in a nutshell, I think this is where we see what's driving the digital economy in Indonesia, where we are currently because of the pandemic, and how we think after the pandemic this trend will continue. I think if we are to talk about opportunities between the two regions, Indonesia, Latin America, and the Caribbean, I think that's where the space is going to be over the next few months and going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernie. And I understand that actually in Indonesia, there's an increase, I think during COVID, increased about 10 million for e-commerce. So amazing numbers. And this is really accelerating. We know it will pick up, but COVID-19 has really accelerated. And I think the importance of integrating the ecosystem is very, very crucial. Perhaps our next speaker can also share the condition on the Latin America side on the digital economy, as well, of course, other issues regarding trade and investment. I would like to introduce Mr. Pablo Lizana Allende, which is the president of the Latin America Chamber of Commerce based in Singapore. Please, Pablo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shinta. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Excellencies, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for us from the Latin American Chamber to have been invited to this event. We thank you for this, and we are glad to contribute to the discussion of bringing our regions closer. I'm absolutely convinced that this is the right way to go, as we have an enormous potential, which is totally untapped, and we can approach together. I would like to comment, and thank you, Shinta, for giving me a few keywords. I would like to comment on the challenges we are having right now in getting closer. I would like to comment the areas where we can cooperate. I would like to comment on the role of a chamber in reducing the gaps we have and in getting our regions closer. I would touch a little bit on the corona issue, the corona problem we have. And I would like to finish with some comments on how to go forward. Is there? I'm sorry to ask. Is there an echo?
Sorry, Pablo. What did you say?
Is there
an echo? Yeah. Can you repeat again?
So I think now it's all right.
It's all right. It's all right now.
Thank you very much. All right. Let me continue commenting what are the challenges we are facing. The fact that we are trying to get our regions closer is a strategic activity and a strategic initiative which is very welcome. Behind this, I see the idea of our countries in Latin America and in Asia and Indonesia to reduce dependencies and therefore to reduce risk in the global commercial activities, but at the same time to diversify the activities we have, to be more resilient. COVID was telling us actually to do so. To get our regions closer means, of course, to look what are the barriers we have and what is hindering us to get closer. And yes, we have many of them, but all right, barriers are, first to be understood, and secondly, to ask the question, what do we need to do to reduce the barrier? For example, Ambassador Nogura Svayaya mentioned as one of the points, one of the challenges we have is distance. Yes, distance is still a barrier, but technology is helping us significantly to reduce this barrier. So the fact that we have new instruments to get closer is helping us, and supporting us in getting our regions closer. We have barriers which are a little bit more significant and where all of us are working. I've heard these a few times today with different elements. And one of the biggest barriers we have is to know about each other. So what is the market we would like to approach? Do we understand the markets we are approaching? Or because if I put myself in the shoes of an entrepreneur, of a company, of a decision maker, representing the private sector, he's gonna ask the question, okay, being an Indonesian company, what is the benefit for me to invest in Latin America or to export to Latin America? Do I have the understanding when I need to have to make my decision properly? And this is based on the quality and the amount of information the companies get in Indonesia, but as well in Latin America. So this barrier is one of the most important we are helping and we are supporting to reduce, having different stakeholders working on these. Another challenge we have is, I believe, is to understand the roles we have as different stakeholders. We have the public sector, so the governments, helping the economies to define and to set the frames. So frames, for example, in agreements, free trade agreements, partnerships, cooperations, etc. And we have the private sector. And here I think we need to understand the responsibility of both parts. The ultimative goal of this process, where both groups or both areas are closely linked, is the ultimative goal is to, through getting the private sector closer, we are going to change the balance sheet of our countries, because we're going to see the numbers increasing, export, import. But ultimately, it is the private sector who has to react. The public sector is giving us the frame conditions. And I'm glad to see, I'm absolutely delighted to see the many different areas we are attaching, we are approaching. We saw today, for example, cooperations in the area of hotels and restaurants. So this is one area in the food and accommodation tourism industry. But on the other hand, we saw today a signing of and cooperation in the area of nuclear research. So this is a completely different area. So what I would like to emphasize on these is the manifold of areas we have to cooperate between Indonesia and Latin America. The spectrum is huge. The only thing, and I'm saying only in terms of inverted commas, is to approach it and to do it. And this is the key word to me, and where I see all of us involved is the key of executing what we define and what we believe is the right thing to do. So to execute. And this is to me a little bit the point, the linkage to what might be the role of a Chamber of Commerce. And how do we understand, as the Latin American Chamber of Commerce in Singapore, our role in this development? So we understood that the key aspect is to reduce the knowledge of missing information. So we need to provide information as a chamber to both regions, to the Latin American region, in order to explain what are the markets, what is the Indonesian market, for example, and what is the potential behind. And that is worthwhile to diversify their economies in approaching the Indonesian market. At the same time is to introduce Latin America to Indonesia, to reduce the barrier indeed of knowing. So what we like to call this, to create an image of our region, to understand better our region in order to facilitate and to support the decision-making, the point of time when the decision is made. So the knowledge transfer in both parts. We have been seeing this and experiencing this in the Latin American Chamber in Singapore. an important factor and instrument to do so. So to introduce the region, in this case, Latin America, is culture. So bringing the culture of Latin America closer to Indonesia and vice versa, of course, is going to help our societies to understand each other, and therefore is going to contribute to close the gap we are having today. Another aspect I would like to mention with regards to our activities is in the chamber is, yes, ultimately what our aim is to get the private sector to talk with the private sector. So it is a success for us to see a company investing in Indonesia or exporting to Indonesia. So what we provide as well is context. So the provision of context, and this is to us an original activity a chamber has to do, to be aware and to understand what is the ecosystem we have in the country, and to provide the corresponding context on the private sector level, to accelerate the decision, to accelerate the decision-making process, to provide the context, and of course to provide the complete network. And this is an activity which has to develop over time. So for a chamber to understand this entire ecosystem, to understand the network, not only in the Asian country, in Indonesia, for example, but as well in Latin America, with a huge number of chambers we have, the associations we have, specific for specific areas, logistic association, transport association, food association, in the many different countries, and to have the contact. So this is the network, because these are important stakeholders promoting as well on behalf of their members the export activities the members are doing. And Southeast Asia, Indonesia is a target market. Well, with these activities, and therefore the role of the chamber depends, and these are the activities where we are focusing in. The role of the chamber in Indonesia, in Southeast Asia, is to address the requirements we are seeing our partners have, associations or chambers in Latin America, or representatives of the private sector. I mean, if I touch a little bit more on the areas of cooperation, I would like to distinguish two areas. The first one is we have cooperation on the, and let me call this, the traditional economies the countries have. Our countries in Latin America, for example, the key contributors to the GDP are raw materials, so mining products, so it's copper, it's gold, etc., and it's agriculture. So in these two fields, which are the traditional, to name only two, the traditional sectors where we are contributing to the GDP. We see similarities, huge similarities to Indonesia, and this is good, because based on the cooperation on these two sectors, so learning from each other to develop to the next step, and the next step many countries have already declared, so to move in the value chain to providing an additional value add to the products. They are, for example, in the mining sector, they are developing, is one of the objectives. So to move in the value chain, to give more value to the products to be exported, is an area where our regions can definitely cooperate. And the other point is, the second point I would like to touch regarding an area is what Bernie already mentioned and Shinta mentioned, is the digital economy. Yes, it's a sector with enormous potential. And the question we have to ask is, how are we gonna make it possible to adopt this technology in our regions? What are the prerequisites when we need to fulfill to bring this technology, to bring digital economy into our regions and to our populations? Examples are fintech. So the let me simplify a little bit the banking sector. So how to bring the banking sector and the banking services to our population. These are areas where we definitely collaborate, we can cooperate. But the same is for education sector. So, or the health sector, where I like to call these all the tech sectors developing over time in the last years. We have similar initial situations, our regions. So we have enormous potential to collaborate. And the collaboration is gonna end in the products of tomorrow. So contributors to the economy of tomorrow. We are starting to do so, and I'm glad to be joining a panel with Bernie, an exceptional company, Gojek. Gojek is showing us how internationally is showing us how we can benefit from technological developments if we put the corresponding pieces correctly together. It is amazing to see that. Congratulations to Bernie and Gojek. So, but this is a second area where I see strong cooperations, and glad to see as well that the agreements, the partnerships, the cooperations we are defining on governmental level are all targeting these different aspects. And if we compare the development of agreements a few years ago to the status we have today and to the status we're going to have in a near future between our region, is simply underlining the importance we are seeing in the corresponding regions, the Latin Americans in Indonesia and Indonesia in Latin America. So the activities we are doing, the roles of the different stakeholders, governmental, policy making, defining the frame conditions, the responsibility of the private sector, and the role in between of a Latin American chamber, just to mention a few of the stakeholders we have playing in this development or having a role in this development to make this through and to get our regions closer. Going forward, and to finalize and to conclude my comments, I see exactly the path we started already. The strengthening of the agreements between, so the frame conditions, the legal frame conditions between our regions, and emphasize on bringing the regions closer by passing knowledge to both parts of the world, and therefore seeing the private sector following the movement and following the dynamics when we started. I'm glad to see this development. I'm glad to see, as I mentioned before, the signing of different cooperation agreements in completely different areas. This is proving us that there is extreme potential to tap on. And I'm glad to follow all this development over the next years. Thank you,
Pablo.
Shinta.
Thank you, Pablo. Unfortunately, we only have about 10 minutes, not even, for Q&A. But I would like to also support you, Pablo. Yes, we also, as the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, definitely facilitate B2B. We have actually dedicated unit called the Business Service Desk that's business matching. Because I think a lot of time when we talk about execution is how to introduce more of the Latin America businesses to Indonesian businesses. I think that's how business can start, dealing can start. So we are encouraging more of this, and we also do a lot of virtual meetings during COVID, I think facilitated by both government. So I wanted to start a Q&A. Just I know time is limited, but I'm trying to just capture, summarize few questions, and maybe what we do is anybody from the panelists who can answer it, because they don't specify which panels members, but there's question about how to increase trade for products that require physical meetings. So I think at the moment everything is done virtually. Of course, with the distance, it's already very difficult to even physically meet. But there are some sectors like the furniture sectors that will have difficulty. How do we propose to tackle that issue? The other one also is export in some of the food products. Are there some incentive? Now, this is a very incentive more will be more bilateral, I think. But maybe Pablo, you can also touch a little bit about what some of the Latin America countries provide for incentive. I have also specific questions regarding Argentina, but I would let maybe that will be tackled separately since it's more bilateral issue. But I want to also close with specific issues on digital economy. I know Gojek mentioned about possibility of also expanding and cooperating with some of the Latin America countries. How do you see specifically you can do that in the future? Okay, let's start maybe with Pak Kasan. Please, Pak Kasan. If you can answer some of the question. Is Pak Kasan still here?
Yeah, Bo, still here, Bo.
Yeah, can you please answer some of the questions?
Yeah. Thank you. I think I respond or refer to specific issues about the bilateral trade between Indonesia and Argentina. As I know that Indonesia and Argentina, we have a huge deficit with Argentina. But this situation, I think Argentina and Indonesia, we have the complementary products between Indonesia and Argentina. So we propose to increase this bilateral trade between Indonesia and Argentina, not only by trade in goods conventionally, but also I think like conventional type like what we call it barter or what we yeah, we can do the bilateral trade, yeah, with Argentina, and we propose some products like automotive and also the paper products, rubber products. So this is potentially to increase our product. And also we have to remind that the distance is not a constraint between Indonesia and Latin American countries, I think. And also we can use the Chile as a hub for Indonesia to increase our bilateral trade with the Latin American countries. Another issue about the digital economy, I think we can also provide by cooperation with the our representative in Latin American countries, embassy and trade attaché or ITPC to provide in digital platform, e-catalog, maybe provide something like information and also the market information. And that I mentioned before about our project with the Amazon.com, I think is part of this our strategy to increase our export product to penetrate in Latin American countries, because we believe that the food and beverage product in Amazon.com through our diaspora in archipelago store, very interesting to increase that platform. And we are already has plan to extend another products by archipelago.store to increase the selling in Amazon.com. So this is our response for two issues that raised in this forum. Thank you, Bu Sinta.
Thank you, Pak Hasan. Pablo, there's a few questions for you also. I think if you can address first about the incentive, and then also regarding the access to garment textile. I think it was mentioned in the group chat.
And
Please.
physical products. Yes. Right. Let me start maybe first with the physical products, because that's indeed a challenge. The situation we have. So why can't we provide physical products, to introduce the products in person today? Because a little bit because of COVID, but COVID is temporarily. So what we have seen, and this might be a recommendation, is, and that's where technology is helping us, is to organize video conferences. We have seen these working quite successfully for now. So if there is even a technology intensive product can be introduced and can be shown by video conference, of course it's different to the real case, but we need to have alternatives today given the situation we have. A key word, what you mentioned, incentives. Yes, the governments in Latin America, on a different extent, are providing incentives to companies coming to the country, provided there is an FDI, so foreign direct investment. And the different values can vary from country to country, but there are incentives to promote, and that's another quite important, may I comment, important instrument to promote the business between our regions, and the countries are reacting to that in Latin America.
Thank you, Pablo. So Bernie, can you touch a little bit? How can you actually, will Gojek cooperate with any of these companies in Latin America? How do you see cooperation moving forward? Please, Bernie.
Thank you, Ibu Shinta. I do believe that Latin America and the Caribbean offer huge potential for market expansion. And I think that there are some similarities between what those markets are offering with what we are offering here in Southeast Asia as well to investors for companies such as Gojek. But the challenge obviously always comes down to the implementation part, and also to understand actually the details of those markets, right? We are not, although we are a digital company, but we are not similar to the Googles or the Facebooks of the world that can simply add access to their services across the globe. We do have, or we require close interaction with people on the ground, right? We have to have drivers, we need to have consumers who are interacting with drivers. So it is very important to know the dynamics on the ground. And I think this is where Dr. Pablo's comments is very important, is to build this closer relationship so that we understand, companies from both sides understand each other's markets perfectly before making a huge investment as expansion into a completely new market. And this is similar to Southeast Asia, even though Southeast Asia is culturally very close with Indonesia, but on the ground implementation can be very challenging and can vary from markets to markets. And I think that's a key challenge that all companies face, despite having similarities culturally, or even if the macroeconomic perspective is compelling. But then when it comes on the ground, we have to deal with the dynamics of consumers, regulatory challenges, differences, and this is where the numbers need to be really looked closer at.
Well, thank you all. As you know, we are now already at the end of our panel session. Unfortunately, time is limited, so an hour has passed. It's been a very fruitful discussion. Thank you all panelists for this opportunity. I have to say that I think some important and that needs to be follow up. First, I think market intelligence is very, very important. I think government needs to provide businesses with the right maps in terms of the sector. And we're talking about all Latin American countries. So specifically, I think bilateral, we need to understand what are some of the sectors and products that will be most potentials. And also, I think in terms of facilitation, I think it was mentioned on terms of promotion and even financing. I think all this needs to be encouraged and supported. But I think what is important when we see also on the agreements, access to market, all those are the process ongoing. But what's important is the implementation. I think I want to underline the importance of this implementation. Digital economy will play a big role, especially now during COVID and even post-COVID. It will be now a way of how to do business now in the new era post-COVID. And I think many opportunities we can see on the digital economy sphere. We need to again focus on how we can cooperate, how we can implement actually having B2B intensify. And I think this is part of not just government job, but also the Chamber of Commerce jobs, also businesses, and also other civil society, because people to people will increase also our understanding in how Latin Americas are. And thank you very much for all. And I would like to again now go back to the session for the next panel discussion. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a big round of applause for the first panel, for the panelists and moderator. Thank you. And we will now proceed to the second panel on the issue of investing during pandemic. Once again, kindly be reminded to address your comments and questions about our session via chat box to be later discussed during the question and answer session. The second panel will be moderated by Mr. Landry Haryo Subianto, the Chief Country Representative of the U.S. ASEAN Business Council in Jakarta office. And joining us today in Fairmont Hotel, one of our speakers, Mr. Sumit Duta, the founder of ASEAN Indonesia Business Partner. And joining us through video conference are Mr. Alma Karma, the Director for Promotion Development, Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board, Mr. Anthony Atamimi, the Director for Sales, Latin America of Asia Pulp and Paper, APP, Sinarmas Orcharta Global, Mr. Marcelo Duarte Monteiro, the Director of International Relations of Brazilian Association of Cotton Producers of Abrapa, and Mr. Juan Esteban Sanchez, the Director of ProColombia for India and Middle East region and Director for the Investment Hub in Asia. Without further ado, Mr. Landry Haryo Subianto, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tika, and I think we are in the distance, so I'm allowed to take off my my mask, and I think you can do as well, Pak Sumit. Very good noon, I think, almost noon now, perhaps late early morning in the other part of the world to our colleagues. And also we have Pak Juan joining from Delhi, right? I hope you all can hear me. So it's an honor for me to be here and to return back to my home. Kementerian Luar Negeri or Foreign Ministry is my home as well. So it's an honor really to chair this session. And I should thank Ibu Sinta for leading for a very nice transition because, you know, growth is a function of consumption, it's a function of trade, it's a function of saving, now it's a function of investment as well. So we are talking now about one of the most important pillars, but one of the most overlooked as well at the same time. Because as of last year, if I'm not mistaken, we are only 44 million of inbound investment from Latin America and Caribbean. We have, and we can do more. And I'm glad that Pak Ngurah, Pak Dirjen has already mentioned that we have 108 projects offered, Pak, this year for increased investment, hopefully. Throughout this morning, I heard about two things or two observations. First, what's standing between Indonesia and Latin America is really about the myth, ocean of myth. But I'm glad that INA-LAC Business Forum bridged that or remove that myth and make the bridge. Technology like Gojek perhaps can help the barriers, etc. And secondly is the COVID situation. Pak Sumit always mentioned about the before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. But I think from the perspective of investment, Pak, where business communities are the major actors, there is a V shape, an L shape, or W shape even, or maybe lot of W. That's something that we have to anticipate. So I think with that, I would like to welcome you all to the session on investing in or during COVID. And I would like to invite our first speaker, Mr. Alma Karma, Director for Promotion Development, Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board. The primary questions, Pak Alma, perhaps to trigger your opening statement is really like how we can increase this $44 million to Indonesia. But before you start, Bapak, may I also remind that in the interest of time and you know, the cognizant of the tight time we have, maybe you can start with more or less maybe maximum 5 minutes of opening statement and then follow so that we can have a more interactive dialogue. And I will be using also my presence here, physical presence, to invite all of the guests, excellencies and distinguished participants here to also pose questions perhaps. So it will be a fair chance for people who attended physically as well as those who are in the Zoom link. With that housekeeping notes, without further ado, let me call Pak Alma Karma, Pak, to have your opening statement. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. First of all, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs for being an exceptional partner to BKPM and for inviting us to a very important important forum. Yeah. And let me start with the investment realization in 2020. Yeah. In the period of January to September 2020, investment realization in Indonesia reached about 611.6 trillion rupiah, or 74.8% of our 2020 budget target of 817.2 trillion rupiah. Even though the investment realization in Q2 2020 experienced a downfall of 4.3 compared to the same period in 2019, the Q3 2020 investment realization is showed a positive sign of economic bounce back, with increase of 8.9% from Q2 2020 and 1.6% compared to Q3 of 2019. The new normal economic activities and the government response to COVID-19 in the past 7 months have been able to recover investor confidence to invest in Indonesia. And slide 4. And during the Q3, July through September 2020, the investment relation reached about 209 trillion rupiah, with the following top 5 FDI that come to Indonesia from the Singapore, followed by China, Japan, Hong Kong, and Netherlands. Based on the sectors, the most of the investors come to the tertiary sectors, is about 56%, following secondary sectors 35%, and primary sectors 9%. All investment distribution in Indonesia right now is from the foreign and domestic. About the 47.2% investors they set up in this their business in Java, and following in 52.8% outside Java. And which we note that is very good sign of investment starting to spread throughout Indonesia. Top 5 FDI location are in right now is West Java, following Jakarta, North Maluku, Banten, and Riau Islands. And if you look at the last 5 years, from 2015 until the recent Q3 2020, Asian countries dominated FDI in Indonesia with a share of 72% of total FDI registration, and top 5 countries are Singapore, Japan, China, Hong Kong, and Malaysia. Singapore has been number 1 FDI registration for years, and one of the reason is because it acts as an investment hub for companies around the globe. Therefore, most of the Singapore FDI in Indonesia actually come from the other countries such as US and Europe. If you look at among the Latin American LAC countries, next year, investment in Indonesia, Brazil is ranking the highest with the total investment registration of $404.6 million US. And of the 5 years, LAC countries investment have resulted in local labor absorptions about 6,377 workers. These investments are dominated the following sectors like housing, industrial estate, and office, hotel and restaurants, construction, service, and transportation, storage, and telecommunications, and majorly located in Java Island, followed by Bali, Nusa Tenggara, and Sumatra. In the middle of this pandemic, BKPM is committed to maintain conducive investment climate by facilitating both existing and new investors and provide incentive to companies. We facilitate new investment as well as existing companies' investment plan. And so we are also facilitate the bottlenecking of investment project. We also facilitate the relocation of investment. We also provide the support for foreign workers or investors coming to Indonesia during a pandemic. We also support healthcare related investment. And as you know that we see investment as a means to increase our productivity and competitiveness. Therefore, we also focusing to attract more investment in priority sectors like labor-intensive industry, export-oriented industry, pharmaceutical and medical device industry, automotive industry, renewable industry, infrastructures, mining industry, which will create added value, electronics industry, food and agriculture industry. So BKPM encourages investment in value-added industry sectors, such as in the downstream industries. The last, I think, we are when considering our potential inflation, economic zone are the strategic choice due to its specialized facilities and incentive. These economic zones offer growing opportunities for investments in various sectors, including manufacturing, downstream industry, agriculture, tourism, etc. So currently, Indonesia has 15 special economic zones, 4 free trade zones, 118 industry state large scale, 1,360 bounded zone, and 91 bounded logistic centers. So, ladies and gentlemen, this comes to the end of my presentation. We hope to see new investors from Latin America coming to Indonesia soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Alma. Let's give him a very big round of applause. I'll get back to you, Pak Karma, about this increasing 44 million. I wonder if you can perhaps later on share with us about the trends or the requests of investors or interested investors from Latin American region. So I think that should be another critical, information for us to know. But I'll get back to you, Pak Alma, and thank you very much. Now, let me turn to the second speaker, Pak Tony, Pak Atamimi. Pak Tony, we have just now we listen about the inbound investment, but the outbound investment is also as important for countries like Indonesia, and we start to grow our outbound investment. And APP, where Pak Tony is really the person behind the gun here, perhaps could share lights, throw some lights to us on what is your experience, Pak Tony, in dealing or investing in Latin American region. Please, the screen is yours now.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Landry. First of all, on behalf of APP Sinarmas, we would like to say terima kasih to Foreign Affairs Ministry to invite us. In fact, actually, for the last few years, APP Sinarmas locally, in fact, in Jakarta, been quite actively in the TEI and also in INA-LAC, even last year. To respond to your question, Pak Landry, the investment actually what the APP Sinarmas are doing in Latin America at this moment, I would like to say is more on the trading. So meanings that we just can do more on the exporting our products, which is paper, tissue, paperboard, packaging. So that is kind of like at this moment our focus is. So it including definitely also tissue product. Lately with this COVID-19, the most products that actually what we focusing on, which is actually the one that is growing, is packaging like a paperboard and also tissue. So in terms of real investment, like capital expenditure, I think that will become natural growth if that is kind of like needed to do real capital expenditure in Latin America. That is again a part of how we grow the business. But at this moment, what we are doing is more on the trading, meaning we just simply export a lot of our products to Latin America. At least we do that strategically, and then we do that very focused for the last 5 years. Hopefully that the simple answer.
Thank you, Pak Tony. I think. Of course, we do hope that the business is good and you plan to have this outbound investment there as well. It's such a large market.
Yes, definitely something like what we're doing also in the US. So it depends also how the business is growing, definitely.
Excellent, Pak. Thank you very much. Now I think we can move to our third speaker, Pak Marcelo Duarte Monteiro, Director of International Relations at ABRAPA, Brazilian Cotton Growers Association, and also the CEO of Asia-Brazil Agro Alliance. Brazil is one of the most important partners of Indonesia in Latin American region. So I think we'd like to hear more from you, if you also listen to the previous sessions about the, incentives or about the policy environment ecosystem there, and also perhaps your experience also in doing business with Indonesia or Southeast Asia in general. Please, Pak, the screen is yours, Pak Marcelo.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Landry. It's a big pleasure to be here in this important event. I would like to thank the organizing committee, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and our embassy, and especially Ambassador José Dornelles, who is here in the audience. So thank you, Ambassador, for being such an important and involved authority working on behalf of the relationship between Brazil and Indonesia. I would like to share my screen, and I have some slides that I would like to share. See if, there we go. Well, I come from, as you said, from the Brazilian Cotton Growers Association, and really when I was given the topic of the presentation, what really came to my mind was first, how can Brazil increase the competitiveness of the Indonesian textile sector? This is really what I'm going to go through and talk, and how we can partner in a way that we can both increase our outputs by working together. First of all, I'd like to point some numbers that I think they are quite interesting, and how Brazil and Indonesia are similar, and in terms of population, in terms of economy, both as if you look in terms of PPP or exchange rate, the two economies are just as big, just as important, and just as populous. And we will take a look at carefully at the Indonesia's textile and garment industry, and we also see it's a very important industry. So the country's textile and garment exports were valued last year at $13.8 billion US, and we know the government is aiming to propel the industry and into the 5 largest of the world. So this is really where we came into the game, because Cotton Brazil is already an important partner of the Indonesian textile industry, and could help even more to increase its competitiveness. And what about the Brazil's cotton sector? I know when some of the speakers that spoke before, they talked a lot about how South America is focused on exports of agricultural products, and that's true. And we believe that this is really our one of our competitive advantages. So we do it in the correct way. So I have it BCI here. BCI stands for Better Cotton Initiative. So Brazil is the world's largest grower of sustainable BCI. So it's like more than a third of BCI cotton from the world comes from Brazil. It's the second largest cotton exporter. And we also have a relevant, important textile garment sector locally in Brazil that responds to 25% of our local, it consumes 25% of our local production. And we have a large focus on technology to increase quality, quantity, and services. Looking at our exports, you see Indonesia is sixth in our total ranking of destinations. So 6th after China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Turkey. Which makes Indonesia an important, very important client of Brazil, responding for about 10% of our total exports. When we look the other way around, I mean, Indonesia, what the share of Brazil's cotton within Indonesia, we see there's been a continuous increase, which makes us quite happy and quite enthusiastic about the Indonesian market. So we've seen that there's increasing preference for Brazilian cotton. Last year, more than a third of all the cotton imported by the Indonesian textile industry came from Brazilian farms. So what's our roadmap? So what's our roadmap to continue contributing to developing Indonesia's textile sector? So this is something, the message I wanted to bring, 6 important points. First of all, we're going to continue focusing on sustainability, increasing from 75 to 95% of BCI licensing, which means 95% of our production will have certification from BCI, which is international standard of sustainable cotton. We'll continue increasing quality. So we've been talking to API, the Indonesian Textile Association, and of course they want better quality, they want better sustainability. So that's why what we're working on. So we invest in cotton genetics production technology to be able to increase sustainable supply as market increase. So if Indonesia wants to be the 5th largest cotton garment supplier exporter in the world, it's going to need more cotton, and we are ready here to supply and to partner with Indonesia. We also want to digitalize, providing reliable information bale by bale. So because cotton is not like other commodities that it's totally bulky. Cotton is wine or other commodities where it's the identification bay by bay, the quality is differentiated. So you need that, and we're working heavily on that as well. And also, we are going to provide consistent supply year round. That's another point that was raised by our friends from the Indonesian textile sector. They only had Brazilian cotton for 6 months of the year. So now we're going to work in a way that we're going to supply 12 months in a year. And finally, I think it's about focusing on relationship building. So that's why I'm here in Southeast Asia. I'm talking from Singapore. And I'm really looking forward to go to Indonesia and to be there physically. I think this type of meetings, of course, help a lot, as it was mentioned. But of course, the face-to-face is always a good way to increase and to build strong long-term relationships. So this is where I am. So in Singapore, and my plan is to, of course, to travel around. So Abrapa has just opened this office a few months ago, so 2 months ago, and decided to come to Southeast Asia because we believe Southeast Asia is really the place to be, is a place where the investments are going to be made. And interestingly, Southeast Asia and Latin America, they have the same size of population, 650 million people. And we believe that's where the greatest growth potentials is. So I'm here, and I'll be certainly traveling as soon as COVID permits. Thank you very much, and look forward for Q&A and listen to your perspectives as well.
Thank you, Marcelo. I think that's very helpful for us to know that. Let's give him a big round of applause. Yeah, I'm very interested in, of course, deep dive on the use of technology and digitalizations in the commodity sectors. That's perhaps something also Tony can enlighten us later on about how technology help you expand your market in Latin America. Now we have the honor to, because Pak Sumit is here with me, so you're my partner in crime, in front of the audience, physical audience. I understand that Pak Sumit now is the CEO and founder of the ASEAN Business Indonesia, and he has a huge knowledge about Indonesia. You speak Indonesian, and maybe from your perspective, Pak, what needs to be done to increase the investment, two-way investment from Indonesia and Latin America, especially during the COVID, and more importantly, what are the challenges that you see as the most salient that we need to overcome, especially during the, after the COVID? And I think I would like to also pick your brain on your previous experience in the financial sector, but investment, trade is nothing without the support from the financial services. And how do you see the role or the expanding role of the financial sector in financing investment and business or trade between the two regions? Please, now the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Palandri. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. A pleasure to be here. Before I start, a small confession. As Palandri alluded, for the last 26 years, I've been working as part of a large global bank, which actually has a very large presence in Brazil, in Mexico, in Latin America, as well as in Indonesia. But I've recently left them. I've started my own outfit, ASEAN Business Partners. So if I indulge in banker speak, please forgive me. Right now, I'm working for ASEAN Business Partners. We effectively look at customers, companies, investors coming in from Latin America, coming in from Europe, investing in Indonesia. We help them connect with the right opportunity, and we provide them the right local support to make sure that these companies can succeed in Indonesia or in other parts of Asia. So if I can just ask us to go through to my presentation. So we think Indonesia actually presents a really compelling investment story. And let's talk a little bit about the facts, right? So fact number one, size matters. Indonesia is simply too big to be ignored, right? If you want to look at growth, Latin America is a very bustling, very dynamic hub, and so is Asia. If you want to come to Asia, of course, you can go to China, you can go to India, but the story of the future is going to be in ASEAN. And if you're looking at ASEAN, you have to compete in Indonesia. A country with a GDP now in excess of 1 trillion is part of the very select club. People have spoken about the 4th most populous country in the world before. If you talk of ASEAN, Indonesia contributes to 40% of ASEAN population and over 35% of ASEAN GDP. So that's big. A very young, digitally enabled people. And again, as a banker, one thing which we've always been very excited by, from a macroeconomic perspective, Indonesia is very fiscally conservative. So, one of the numbers as a banker which we crunch is looking at the debt to GDP ratio of a country. Where by debt, we talk about the total debt of the country, including sovereign debt, including the debt of corporates, the debt of households, including mortgage debt, right? And of course, intercompany borrowings. Developed markets, Hong Kong, Singapore, a few of the others have debt to GDP ratios in excess of 400%. Virtually most countries in Asia have a debt to GDP ratio in excess of 200. Indonesia has not one of the lowest, but the lowest debt to GDP ratio of any country in Asia at 84%. Which means that if the worst were to happen, right? So we're talking of COVID right now. If COVID was to be multiplied many times over, some of the highly leveraged countries would find it really difficult to service their debt. Indonesia would go through just fine. So, it's a big country. We've discussed some of the numbers before. I won't go through them again. But if you have an interest in Asia, you have to do business in Indonesia. Can we go to the next slide, please? Behind the numbers, right? So again, in my previous role as a banker, when I spoke to customers, investors coming in from Europe, from Latin America, from North America, what do they want? Investors want stability. They want sustainability. They want to be able to predict that, not just what the country is today, what is going to be for the next 20 years. Because when you come in from Latin America all the way to Indonesia, you aren't coming here for a jaunt. You're coming here for a long-term investment. And I think it's in these areas that Indonesia, the Indonesian story, really comes through in a really compelling way, right? So first of all, stability. And I don't think we say this often enough. When you look at Asia and Indonesia's neighbors, what Indonesia has to offer in terms of political stability, in terms of social stability, in terms of religious stability, is frankly unparalleled. It's a young democracy, a very successful democracy. Transitions of power from government to government happen very smoothly, in some cases much more smoothly than in some developed countries which we will not name. And in terms of social, religious stability, it is frankly a model, I believe, having lived here for the last 6 years, it's a model for the rest of the world. The second thing I want to talk about is about the administration, right? The fact that we're having this event here, right? The administration in Indonesia has been absolutely keen to promote business, right? I remember when I came to Indonesia, a time with Pak Jokowi's first cabinet stint, and I was really impressed of the first bunch of, I think, 35 cabinet ministers in President Jokowi's first government. 17 were non-politicians, they were technocrats. They were CEOs and CFOs of prominent Indonesian companies put into positions of power to run the government. Not many emerging market governments do that kind of thing. This government has been very clean, it's been trying really hard to promote, to reduce corruption, etc. And again, we're really enthused by what we see are the very genuine intents of the government to promote transparency, to bring about more integrity into the system, and to bring about trade between partners and to open the doors. And finally, in terms of, again, as a banker, investment grade country by all the 3 rating agencies, Fitch, Moody's, and S&P. Next slide, please. I won't go through this long. For the COVID story, right? To my mind, COVID story determines how governments are doing. I think Indonesia's done a pretty decent job. It's a large country, 280 million people. Not easy to manage COVID. in terms of the structural changes it has undertaken to try and help out SMEs, help out the people on the street, it's done some really amazing things. And I think the benefits of this will be truly made more aware in the post-COVID period. Now, for people coming in from Latin America, for customers coming in, there are a bunch of different industries, and we've tried to highlight 4 industries which we believe, I'm not saying other industries are not encouraged, but I think, e-commerce. In Indonesia, the e-commerce market has been growing at 33 to 35% for the last few years. You heard about Gojek. We've got 1 decacorn. You've got 4 unicorns. Frankly, e-commerce is a boon for Indonesia. And if any of your countries or any of your companies want to come into the e-commerce space, either to provide the service upfront or to provide services, ancillary services to big e-commerce players like Gojek, etc., I think it's a great industry to get into. Second industry, food and beverages, large consumption market here, 280 million people, GDP per capita at $4,000, growing rapidly. Indonesia is going to become a big consumption story in the years to come. Point number 3, chemical industry. You look at manufacturing, you look at agri, the chemical industry is going to grow. Great industry in our estimation for investment. And finally, pharmaceutical industry. I think COVID has thrown this thing into much greater relief, the importance and the need for each country to invest in the pharmaceutical industry. Again, 280 million people, big needs in this country, so great investment opportunity. Finally, just want to add, building the right strategy to enter a market is fabulous. Having the right plan is fabulous. What it boils down to for investors from your countries in Latin America is execution. So, it is very important for those of you who are in Indonesia to make sure that when your companies come into Indonesia, like any emerging market, it's got good, it's got, bad, right? To come in with your eyes wide open so you understand the realities on the ground. And again, like to make an open offer, if we can be of any service as in ASEAN business partners, to give you the facts on the ground, to maybe compare Indonesia with other ASEAN markets, right? Give you very objective, the realities, because like I say, when your companies come all the way from Latin America into Indonesia, you're not coming for a jaunt, you're coming here for the long haul. To come in with your eyes wide open, we'll be very happy to speak to your companies, to make a presentation, etc., whatever you want, free of cost. But I do think it's important when we bring people in, let's understand each other so that it turns out to be a long, happy marriage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Sumit. I think that's very sharp. 4 sectors that may have a strong potentials, especially after or during the COVID situations, all involve technology. I think technology is really the defining tools for a business to grow. But I'll get back to you with more about your points, Pak. But now let me invite Pak Juan Sanchez, Esteban Sanchez, based in India, Executive Director of ProColombia for India and Middle East region, and Director for the Investment Hub in Asia. And Pak Juan, I'm glad that we share a similar city to study at Colchester.
Okay.
So the screen is yours, Pak Sanchez, please.
Thank you very much. I would like just to say thank you very much for this kind invitation. And in the name of the Ambassador of Colombia, Juan Camilo Valencia, this is an honor for us just to express our ideas about what recovery means and what the crisis means for opportunities on investment between the 2 countries. So I would like to share my presentation right now. Can you tell me if you can see it? Yeah. Okay. So can you see the presentation right now? Yes. Perfect. Okay. So I've been just taking a look and listening the ideas of my previous panelist friends and even the former panel. And I would like just to focus on some really beautiful comments that I hear, that, for example, cooperation, yeah? Thinking on really good business, depending on the smaller or the bigger the business is, the more important is the knowledge. So I would like just to share some messages from the Colombian perspective. The first thing is that, for example, for the recovering situation right now, we like to do in businesses, yeah. As the Indonesian people, we like to do business, but we are practical but resilient people. And this is important for us. The second thing is that our principles, talking like the government, is legality, entrepreneurship, and equity. Without this, there is no any possibility to recover the economy after this trying situation. Our equation is more regarding to focus on innovation, education, financial coverage, connectivity, and the growing of the middle class. And this is important, the last one, because in this moment we can see that our economy is doing well in the crisis because our middle class is over the 35% of the population in Colombia. And for us, the middle class has the access to banking, to the connectivity services, and even for the health services that in the government we provide. We do believe that we can recover in the way that, for example, with Indonesia, your knowledge and experience can help us to improve our productivity. As the Ambassador Valencia says every time to the investor, companies like Sinarmas, Tokopedia, Bukalapak, Wilmar, Salim, Lipo, EMP, they say, please come to Colombia and let us just to find your proper partners in order maybe just to take advantages of the possibilities we have for your industry. We believe that, for example, Colombians are the perfect partners for Indonesian micro, small, and medium enterprises as well. Why? Because as Indonesia, and even ASEAN, Colombia could be considered as a hub for the commercial expansion of Indonesian companies in the LAC region. Okay, we are not asking to move the companies. This is not the idea, never. But we'll consider Colombia as a hub for the Indonesian companies in Latin America and the Caribbean region. Why? Because your services and your products is in the high quality and high class world level. So if you ask me what are the main points in order just to promote investment in the crisis is we want you to import from Colombia, absolutely yes, but also we want you to export your products from Colombia. And this is important for us. Going through, Colombia has been the Latin American country which has invested in the most percentage of the GDP in order just to go against the pandemic effects. As a result, we have become a resilient country. Yeah. The growth is in negative position around 8%, but we can see that we are estimating the growth fast in 4% in the next year, considering that we have the central bank with the main goal of controlling inflation, but also promoting investment in order just to create more jobs. I was just reading this morning an interview with the director of the World Economic Forum, and he said the three main points you have just to work on for the recovery is equality, environmental protection, and unemployment. And we are doing that. Now, we have to say that in order just to bring this to reality, we have around 17 free trade agreements. And these free trade agreements are leading by the Pacific Alliance ones. That is one of the most important because from Colombia, you can just produce and export to Mexico, Peru, and Chile as well. But also, we are trying just to lower the foreign direct investment barriers. And we are one of the countries that are working on this. And also, we are just trying just to do a kind of portfolio strategy in order just to bring investment from countries like Indonesia in different kind of sectors. So if I hear Mr. Atamimi about the paper-related business, we are trying just to create a proposal, and this is an example, not just for the paper production, but also for the real estate investment trust investment related in the forest industry. taking into consideration that the whole of the country needs investment in agribusiness. So investment opportunities, yes. I just would like just to say some of them no more, because we have just maybe 2 minutes more. The first thing is that Colombia can offer a stable economy, and this is important for us, even with democracy. A growing middle class, various opportunities for businesses, a strategic location, and connecting routes to markets like the United States and South America. So we've been just dealing with a free trade zone regime, really strong. Different strategies in order just to reduce a little bit the taxes. This is the reduction of taxes is not the main point of the strategy. And identifying opportunities for Indonesia and Colombia in technology, software development, agri-tech, fruit and vegetable cropping, pharma, metalworking, and also in logistics and competitiveness. So see, this is the main point I just would like to express to you. And we are just working on trying just to integrate the two countries with the knowledge, the technology transference, and the partnership. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, hermano. Let's give Juan Sanchez a big round of applause. I'm trying to be a fair interlocutor or business interlocutor, or at least I'm trying. Juan Sanchez mentioned several times, Pak Tony Atamimi, Pak. Maybe you would like to respond.
I'm about to address him too, actually. That is something good questions. So here I would like to say, Pak Juan Sanchez. So we actually have a good example right now that we've been doing in Mexico. So as I told you to the audience before, that actually, but what we are doing, because we are a pulp, a paper, a tissue company. So definitely that when you go do investment in the faraway country, definitely you need to have some base, some a sound business base that you need to establish. Unfortunately, actually, we are not able to establish any business. Yes, we do a little bit in Colombia because of only just for carbon-less paper. We call it NCR paper. Because any other commodity paper, actually, we have a huge import duty over there, something like a 15%. So at the same token, like what we are doing in Mexico, yes, we still have to do some import duty, but sort of kind of like manageable. So we've been doing some good business at this moment. So we've been actually already partnering with a big local paper mill also in Mexico. Just a matter of time that we're going to do investment if everything can naturally grow. So again, we just talking in terms of business investment, definitely, especially if you go out, sort of kind of like export, right? The foreign investment. We just kind of like grow naturally, but do with the trading. So once you see that the partner is right, the timing is right, and then the product segment is right, and then the finance is right, and then everything will happen. So for Colombia, I think I would like to say still kind of like behind. If we're just talking about forestry, pulp, paper industry with EPP and ARMAS. So that's, I think, I would like to address immediately. And I think that's just kind of like the approach that if we would like to do some investment, and definitely that we have to see also how stable the country, right? And then how the economy is growing, you know. Just want to give a little bit strategy, or maybe kind of like a bit direction to how actually EPP doing investment, especially during this COVID-19, because actually our team of panel actually is investment during a pandemic. So, but the one that subject that having a huge impact is actually that everybody working from home, right? And then the whole entire industry actually is just kind of like a change a lot. People do not go to the offices anymore, and then the kids do not go to the school. So the graphic paper, APP literally make we would like to say humbly that we are number one in terms of the capacity, in terms of pulp, paper, tissue, packaging in the world, not only just Indonesia a facility, but worldwide. So having said that, definitely that we have to identify what kind of the investment that what we are doing during this COVID-19, and then also the booming of e-commerce. Actually, the COVID-19 further grow the e-commerce. So the packaging definitely and tissue definitely is the one that is booming at this moment. So while our graphic paper is kind of down, but the packaging and tissue is growing strong. So that is actually kind of like the directions of investment, what we are doing. And then we actively right now, through the trading activity, we are doing actually focusing on this kind of a product. So partnering with the trading company, with the distribution company. And then in fact, actually just kind of like partnering with a paper mill in the respective country. Again, just want to give a good example, something like in Mexico. Because we found there is something like a complementary strength because they do not do the packaging and then we do the packaging. So there, and then they have a good in-network and distributions. That's the way that what we do the probably future investment.
Thank you, Pak Tony. I think in the era of COVID, tissue paper was one of the most scarce products that people look for. And also now the packaging with e-commerce, of the growing of e-commerce. Anyway, before I pose more questions, perhaps I'd like to invite if any distinguished participants here in the room would like to raise questions, because you've been sitting here very passionately and diligently for the past few hours. Maybe I'd like to. Yes, please, sir. Sorry, I can't see your face because of the light. Please, could you also introduce yourself?
Ambassador of Chile.
Oh, Excellency, please.
Yes, I would like to make some brief comments and make a question. First, I think Indonesia should see Latin America not like as a whole region, in a sense that we are similar but not equal. This is very important because we have different realities, different economies, different history, different perspective. Some of our countries are very important and strong in manufacturers, other ones in commodities. We are strong exporters in agricultural products, for sure, but also in other things, mining, etc. Also, I would like to underline that in Latin America, we are very much integrated in investment ecosystem, meaning you have Colombian companies working in Chile, Chilean companies working in Argentina, and so on. What I like to say with this particular, because I think Indonesia in the context for investment is not particular well integrated with the rest of the region. I mean, because we have, for example, huge investment in China, huge investment in Thailand, in Vietnam. So why, that's the question, why do you think is something that should be arranged, modified, I don't know exactly the name, in Indonesia? Because, for example, we have been following with a certain interest this development of omnibus bill, no? This new structure, new architecture for attracting investment. So my question to the panelists, do you think that the law, as we know, has been enough to be to convert Indonesia in a very attractive investment partner, or maybe is something else to move? Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Excellency. So I think, if I may, I would like to invite Pak Alma Karma, Pak, because this is about the attracting investment, and you mentioned about the omnibus. How omnibus can give more assurances? I understand we are doing our homework through omnibus law on job creation, but maybe you can throw some lights back, because I understand there will be 59 implementing regulations within the next 3 months that must be finished and implemented. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you. Actually, we are still start to making to finalize of the regulation about omnibus law in my BKPM. And I think the purpose of this, we are trying to give best services for investment. Like now, BKPM is committed to maintain conducive investment climate, by facilitating both existing and new investors, and provide incentive to the investors and to companies. And I think we that the regulation, that means the President Instruction number 7 year 2019, has mandated BKPM as the forefront of accelerating ease of doing business in Indonesia. So the President issued this regulation to streamline of all business licensing toward in BKPM. This kind of breakthrough is one example of our commitment to set enable environments for investment. And starting a business in Indonesia is now more measurable, clear and simpler. That's the purpose of this regulation. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Alma. Because I think for the business, certainty and consistency is even more important than cost sometimes. So I think it's a big work ahead, Pak Alma, but we are here to support governments in making sure the implementations of the omnibus is according to the plan. But I'd like to invite you to have your comment, Pak Sumit, because Ambassador mentioned about Vietnam, Thailand, our basically our partners in investment. And
so again, Ambassador, I think your point is very well made, and I think it's it's a challenge, because it's not just Indonesia looking for investment coming in from other countries. There are many other countries in ASEAN, very agile, very nimble. Now, I worked for 6 years in Vietnam as well before I came to Indonesia. So I'm in a position where I can actually compare. But to my mind, a couple of issues, right? And this is feedback. I'm just being very, very honest and straightforward. One of the issues in Indonesia is regulation is very complex, and sometimes regulation across different ministries is conflicting. So you don't really know as to whether you follow the regulations of this ministry, which will conflict with the regulation from another ministry. And I used to be in the banking sector, and we would struggle with this. And to my mind, this has been one of the objectives of the omnibus law, to reduce the contradictions and to hopefully make it slightly less complex. Is it perfect? It probably is not, but it is certainly work in progress in the right direction. And to me, that gives me hope, right? That's point number one. Point number two is, and again, being very honest here, at the senior most levels, I think the country is very welcoming of foreign investment. President Jokowi, a lot of senior people go out and court foreign investment. Down the ranks in the different ministries, sometimes the attitude is different. And you're not always getting that warm welcome, which you're getting right from the top. And again, this feedback has been passed on. And I think, with President Jokowi, the attitude of the government is changing. The doors are being opened wider, and that message is gradually trickling down, right? And I'll contrast this with Vietnam in particular, because to my mind, Vietnam in terms of infrastructure is not as close to Indonesia. Indonesia in terms of its overall infrastructure is way, way, way ahead. But Vietnam makes up for it in terms of the very warm welcome, and they can implement that warm welcome at all levels of the government. So if the government of Indonesia, if Indonesia can do the same thing, it will be a tremendously powerful tool. And I think the couple of other areas. One is, I think the Indonesia story is very compelling. And again, with respect to everyone, I don't think Indonesians tell the story well enough, right? So that marketing piece, I think it's in the marketing piece, the communication piece, that some other countries steal a march over Indonesia. And the day Indonesia can harness its marketing communication and present a coherent investment story and stick to that story, I think the odds will dramatically change in Indonesia's favor. Because as I say, I've worked in many countries in Asia, and I think other countries are more agile and more nimble in telling the story compared to Indonesia. And the last point I just want to mention, in every country, I'm sure it's true in Latin America as well, on the ground support, right? You know, if you look at successful companies in Indonesia, I'll point to one company, Unilever. Unilever is a global company. It's a European company. The way they function in Indonesia is like an Indonesian company, and I mean that as a compliment, right? Meaning they don't try and use their European principles and practices to dictate how the local company performs out here. They actually have assimilated in Indonesia. So to my mind, that's a critical ingredient of success, because, you know, people can talk, people can sell, people can market. The proof of the pudding is when companies from Latin America come into Indonesia and they succeed, they do really well. That success will breed further success. So to me, as long as companies come in, they're willing to integrate, they're willing to be here for the long haul, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, that'll be a recipe for success. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Sumit, and I believe that is the sole purpose of this forum, right? Just to make sure that all your points were fully realized and materialized into reality, and that would be a great achievement for all of us. And definitely, that's the challenge, a big challenge, Pak. Unfortunately, time's up. I don't know if do we still have time or no? Maybe time's up, right? And I can't see any questions from the Zoom link as well. So we are bound for the next session, which is also very important on connectivity. But again, perhaps in the interest of time, I would like to invite 30 seconds of statement from each of you, closing statement of what do you really expect, from the government, not only from the foreign ministry, but also from the government of Indonesia with a big G. And let me start in reverse order with my friend Juan. If you could kindly make your closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a word. I think it's bilateral strategies. The way that we can sell in a proper way Indonesia, and in this case, Colombian opportunities, it would be great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Juan. Pak Sumit, I know you just spoke, but if you'd like to have your closing statement.
From a government of Indonesia perspective, invest in a coherent, credible marketing strategy to bring investment in. It will be coming in. And for our friends in Latin America, from a cultural ethos perspective, Indonesia is the right country for all of you to invest in. So please do come into Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you. Senor Marcelo, please.
Oh, I think there's a lot of complementarities between our economies. There are huge economies, Brazil and Indonesia, that unfortunately there's very little knowledge among these two countries, even though we already have investments in the two sides. So if we continue talking and involving people, businessmen, as we ever said previously, I'm totally sure this lack of knowledge is going to be overcome, and we're going to develop much more businesses, and that's going to be good for both countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marcelo. May I now invite Pak Tony, Pak, for your short closing, Pak.
Thank you, Palandri. You know what? I think between the two regions, we have a huge and potential opportunity. And I've been actually having a good and great experience doing business in Latin America. The culture, I would like to say, with the language barrier, put it that way, that is a part of the challenge. But in terms of the culture, in terms of how people want doing the business, is equal, okay? And once you have kind of like a people to people and business to business, it's a more fun, call it that way, doing business in Latin America. Or I would like to say also probably Latina will be fun also doing business in Indonesia. And but it's not easy to convince even my headquarters when we started. Okay, so you guys need to be patient. So I believe also that even our government officers probably will take a hard time to convince the top how to come to Latin America. I think vice versa. But the opportunities are huge. And then I would like to say it's easier to do business in Latin America. I would like to say also the same thing, vice versa. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Tony. May I now invite Pak Alma, Pak, to have your closing statement, please, Pak.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak. So we are here. We hope to see a new investor from Latin America coming to Indonesia. We and BKPN will support and facilitate them to invest in Indonesia from the beginning until they set up their business in Indonesia. And I think they are success in Indonesia, and they will be huge to be a good company here. Then invite the other friends to come to Indonesia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Alma. And I think my last order of the day is really to thank all distinguished speakers, panelists. I'd like to invite you all to give a big round of applause to all of the 5 panelists. And perhaps to our friends from Latin America and across the globe, see Indonesia not as 240 million market, but also as the springboard of the export or entering the 645 million of ASEAN market, because we are the largest economy. But of course, we are doing our homework, I think, the government, and I really would like to commend the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, not only for having me here, coming home, but also for build a bridge above the ocean of misperception or myth, perhaps, and we'd like to see your work continue, Pak. So thank you very much, and have a good day, everybody. Bye.
Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, we have had 2 very interesting panels of discussion, not only for us who are here at Fairmont Hotel, but also for around 270 people following this event from YouTube. Thank you. And we will now continue our panel of discussion with session 3 on the issue of Indonesia, Latin America, and Caribbean connectivity. Once again, please address your comments and questions about our session via chat box to be later discussed during the question and answer. We also kindly remind you to continuously observe health protocol during the pandemic. The third panel will be moderated by Mr. Nurhadiono Nurjadin, the Commissioner of CAS Group. We kindly invite you to come to the stage. Also, we have here with us one of our speakers, His Excellency Ambassador Julio Cardenas, Ambassador of the Republic of Peru to the Republic of Indonesia, and the Dean of GRULAC, the Group of Latin America and the Caribbean. And we also have our speakers joining through video conference, Mr. M. Kunchoro Wibowo, CEO of PT Banda Gara Reksa or BGR Persero, BGR Logistics. Mr. Agus Windiarto, Managing Director 3 of Indonesia Exim Bank. And Mr. Yudo Nur Setiaji, the Deputy Director for International Shipping, Directorate of Sea Traffic and Transportation, Ministry of Transportation of the Republic of Indonesia. And I will now give the floor to our moderator, Mr. Nurhadiono Nuryadi.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, first of all, for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia for honoring me to allow me to moderate the session of very distinguished panelists, consisting of, I would like to introduce who is here today in person, Ambassador Julio Cardenas, Ambassador of Peru. Especially, I work with the Ambassador on other panels, so I look forward to having a very good discussion with the other panelists also, consisting of Deputy Director for International Shipping, Director of Sea Traffic and Transportation, Ministry of Transportation of the Republic of Indonesia, Pak Yudhoyono Setiadi, and Mr. Kunchoro Wibowo, CEO of PT Bandara Reksa, BGR Logistics, and Mr. Agus Widianto, Managing Director of the Indonesia Exim Bank. So this panel, I think it's a nice wrap-up of from the previous panels. The first one discussing trade and investment during the COVID crisis and impediments to that. The second one discussing investment. And this one is really quite an important element of any trade and investment relationship. And it's really what I would say the fulfillment aspect. How do we actually realize all this trade and investment and actually get goods sent and connect the people to do the investment? So I think this is a very, very nice way to end the session this morning, especially to talk about some of the impediments and how do we get over the geographic distance between Latin America, Caribbean, and Indonesia, because certainly there is quite a vast ocean, and even within the geographies of the two regions, there are many challenges to face. And so how do we overcome these challenges and really get the trade and investment to be realized? I think it's quite important, given the underlying agreements that we already have in place. For example, we have the Chile-Indonesia CEPA, and it is a very, very good start. We have the regional agreements like RCEP in our part of the world, and then in Latin America, we have the Pacific Alliance and the other agreements. So it's all about how do we realize this? And this is what we're going to discuss today, specifically on connectivity. So perhaps I'd like to start with Pak Yudhoyono Setiadi to give his opening remarks. And I understand you have a presentation, but I would ask that you keep it to 5 to 7 minutes if it's possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Nurhadiono Nuryadi. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, panelists, very good day to everyone. I'm not hearing it clear, but is it only just a remarks or I just presenting? I'm so sorry. 5
minutes, so you can give a short presentation or remarks.
Oh, yeah. Okay then, thank you very much. If you don't mind, may I share my presentation?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Very good day again, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to join this panel discussion on Indonesia, Latin America, and the Caribbean connectivity on behalf of the Director General of Sea Transportation, My name once again, Yudo Nurstiaji Parijo. You can call me Yudo. Currently, I'm serving as the Deputy Director for International Shipping. As part of the Ministry of Transportation, connectivity itself is a priority of our work, in which Indonesia is an archipelagic country whose economic activities rely heavily on the connectivity by sea. The existence of connectivity is very important for trade flows and the competitiveness of exports and imports of an economy as a key to accelerating economy itself. Also, we need the integration between countries. International trade activities in Indonesia can be carried out in ports that are open to international trade. For foreign shipping to carry out export and import activities in Indonesia, they can do so at ports that are open to international trade, which in Indonesia we have about 141 ports that open for international trade. On this slide, we can see the comparison data of export and imports in 2019 and 2020. With the number we can see of export and imports in 2020 decreased very significantly for non-container cargos, and for container cargos also decreased. During the period of January until August 2020, the decreasing on the export and import is about 536 million metric tons for non-container cargo. On the other hand, the container cargo itself decreased by around 292,000 TEUs from the 2019 to 2020. The next slide, please. During the global pandemic of COVID-19, the number of exports and imports using foreign shipping has a very significant decline. We can see that for the non-container cargos in 2020, for container cargos using ships, foreigners also having a decline. In the meantime, in meanwhile, exports and import transported by national ships have actually increased during the January till the August 2020 periods. Next slide, please. On this slide, we can see that the Argentina, one of the Latin America and Caribbean member, was included in the top 8 export destination for liquid natural gas from Indonesia in 2018. LNG itself is the 5th largest export in Indonesia based on the data from our foreign ship agency approval, national ship operation approval, and also the deviation abroad. On the next slide, please. The following, we can see the data is imported commodities from the Latin American Caribbean region to Indonesia. We can see here that the majority of imports from the Caribbean and Latin America is about the soybean meal from Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay, and also wheat from in bulk from Argentina. We have also crude oil from Mexico, iron ore from Brazil, and raw sugar from Brazil also. And next slide, please. We can see on this slide the comparison of the number of our ship agency approval issued by DGST, or we call it in Indonesia PKKA, is about the ship coming or going to LAC countries in 2019 and 2020, which are dominated by, we can see from the graph, is dominated by the Argentina and Brazil. Argentina, Chile, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Honduras, and Panama experienced decreases in 2020, while Brazil, Colombia, Guatemala, Mexico, Peru, and Uruguay experienced increases in 2020, while Jamaica and Venezuela remained the same. Next slide, please. This is, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the flow of how to get the approval for foreign ship agency in DGST. Foreign shipping companies operating their ships in Indonesian ports are required to appoint national shipping companies as general agents. So every national company that will agents having involvement in agents as the agent for foreign shipping is required to have an agency approval for foreign ships visiting ports that are, of course, open for international trade. The following is the flow of foreign ship approval processing, starting from the user submitting an application, and after that get the verification by our officers. And if the documents are complete, it goes directly to the verification by our head of section. But if it is not complete or needs some other document to be filled, it will be revised by the officer and returned to the user. After that, after being approved by the head of section, the document itself goes to deputy director, goes to me, and after obtaining approval, the user will get the invoice for non-tax state revenue, or we call in Indonesia PNBP. After making PNBP or non-tax revenue payment, the user can download and print the document independently. This is the flow of how to get the agency approval for foreign shipping operated in Indonesia. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, on the next slide, I believe it is, I say thank you for this opportunity, and I will be more than happy to discuss everything that needs to make our relationship more fruitfully. Thank you very much, the moderator. I give it time.
Thank you very much, Pak Yudo. I have a follow-up question, but we'll do that in the question and answer session later on. So next, I would like to call Ambassador Cardenas to give your opening statements.
Thank you, Padrino. It's a pleasure to see you again. Good afternoon to everybody. Buenas noches in Latin America. First of all, on behalf of the Latin American and Caribbean ambassadors, I would like to congratulate the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia for organizing this timely event for enhancing the trade relationship between Indonesia and Latin America and Caribbean. There is one wise Indonesian proverb that says, when the elephant decides to walk through the village, all the animals come out and follow him. As a simile, in our case, the elephant represents the government. The elephant represents the political will. So in this sense, we have to congratulate ourselves that after hearing this morning the encouraging remarks of such prominent authorities like the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, the Minister of Trade, the Minister of Religious Affairs, the Governor of Central Bank of Indonesia, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Chile on behalf of the Pacific Alliance countries, the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Uruguay on behalf of Mercosur countries, and the Secretary General of SICA, we can be sure that there is now a strong political will on both sides for improving the economic cooperation and trade. And the elephant, after so many years, finally, this time, is going to move stronger and surely, carrying with him the stakeholders of both sides. Latin America and Caribbean are fully aware of the importance of strengthening trade and cooperation with Indonesia, especially after the severe damage that our economies suffered with the pandemic. Indeed, we have to improve the trade both ways. But let's point out something very important. Above all, we have to change our mindset. We have to change our mentality. It's no longer business as usual. The trade relationship between Latin America and Indonesia after COVID-19 should have a pragmatic, innovative, and balanced approach. No more the traditional way to do business. With the existing technology and with all the advances in connectivity, anything can be possible nowadays. Most of the Latin American and Caribbean countries have as a main trading partner to China, and the distance is not anymore a problem. So it's not valid reason to blame the distance for not enhancing trade with Indonesia. If we are doing so well with China, why not with Indonesia? Why not to improve this 3% of the total trade that Indonesia is doing with with Latin America and Caribbean? Why not to increase that? Indonesia should take more advantage of the already existing integration schemes, such as Mercosur, Andean Community, CARICOM, SICA, and the Pacific Alliance. All these integration mechanisms have interesting market access and tax incentives to offer to Indonesia. Just revisit these processes and you are going to find how huge is the potential in our region to work with. Indonesia needs to fast-track the current negotiation of preferential trade agreements with different countries in Latin America in order to boost the trade between the two sides. Countries like Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, we are, among others, in the waiting list. Latin American and Caribbean countries welcome the today launching of the digital partnership Indonesia, Latin America, Caribbean, platform that will provide our business people a good tool of trading engagement and of course promote the investment climate. We believe that it's necessary to establish a formal mechanism for trade relations between Indonesia and Latin America. The urgent establishment of an Indonesia-Latin America-Caribbean Chamber of Commerce could be the beginning of this promising partnership. We welcome in this sense the support that we are having from the Ambassador Nura, Director General of America. The vision of exchanging products between Latin America, Caribbean, and Indonesia has to integrate concepts that have been recently developing rapidly, such as, first, recognize that the pandemic is a game changer. Second, recognize that the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the digitalization of our economies, which has now become critical for the survival of many businesses, especially SMEs. Third, recognize that clean energy industry is gaining momentum in the world and promise to be better than the oil age of the 20th century. Shifts in geopolitics of energy is in full process nowadays. Four, recognize that the invention of new industry materials are currently going on very fast, and that copper, zinc, and other minerals that some of Latin American countries and Indonesia are exporting will soon become obsolete. One of the important factors that I would like to mention in this forum is the recent establishment of the Indonesia Investment Authority, IIA. With this, Indonesia is one of the few Asian countries that have established sovereign wealth funds with initial capital of $5 billion that will allow foreign investors to partner with Indonesian capitals, especially in infrastructure and agricultural projects. We are sure that that the potential investors from our countries are going to welcome this good news. According to the highest Indonesian authorities, the recent passed job creation law will bolster trade and foreign investment by streamlining business regulation and cutting red tape. Latin American Caribbean countries are eager to know these new positive provisions firsthand, to later disseminate the information in our respective economies. Perhaps with the help of KEMLU, we can have one virtual meeting with the respective specialists to explain us in detail the advantages of this new business-friendly regulation. Finally, we are convinced that enhancing the communication and supply chain between the stakeholders of the vital sectors from both regions should be a bolster of our economy's recovery. Connectivity is a multi-layer concept comprised of different types of networks, including those that are physical and virtual. Connectivity is largely about interactions, productivity, competition, and market opportunities for increasing trade. And that is what we are doing in this forum now, with such a good speakers, panelists, and participants. If there is a will, there is a way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Cardenas. I will also follow up with a question later on. I want to acknowledge that you've opened up the very interesting point about the elephant, so we can address the elephant in the room, I guess. You know. So next will be Pak Kunchoro Wibowo, who is the CEO of Bandara Raksa BGR Logistics. And here we have a practitioner, a business person's outlook on the current situation. And specifically, maybe you can address some of the impediments and how we can improve the links, the connectivity between Indonesia and Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you. Pak Kunchoro.
Okay, thank you, Pak Nur, Mr. Ambassador, distinguished delegates, all the panelists that are already joined in this webinar. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. What a beautiful day it is, and I'm delighted to be here and so happy that I'm going to be sharing about the connectivity and supporting infrastructure, which has been a major issue in bilateral trade, and also how critical logistic and transportation service are as the main component to narrow the gap between Indonesia and Latin America and the Caribbean and reduce the geographic barrier. The presentation will be in very short from me. Okay, then next. First, I'd like to talk about the actual condition why Indonesia is so potential. Nowadays, Indonesia and many countries are being affected by the pandemic, and we can't deny it, that it has been a critical issue on how this has impacted business in many sectors. Over the past 11 years in my role in transportation and logistics, I have seen trials and turbulence along the way, but these days are just quite new and challenging for everybody. First here, you see that Indonesia here, according to this data, that Indonesia is one of the top 5 countries in Asia that has a high GDP, which means that in this season, Indonesia economic health is still tolerated compared to other countries in Asia. Second, Indonesia is the one of the countries with the highest population and estimated that by 2030, around 70% of the total population is productive age, which will lead to effective and efficiency in the organization. Third, Indonesia is very rich in natural resources that make Indonesia is the major exporter in commodities such as oil, coal, and petroleum gas. These are our strength to be carried out to this part you see in the right side of this set. At the same time, we face the major global challenge, especially logistics, such as more volatility, countries barriers, longer supply chain often lack visibility. Okay, next. So this is the big question. I think everybody knows about this one. Why the logistics is very expensive between both of us? How can it be, and what would happen if we don't do something about it? All these challenges that I've been talking about just now are clearly seen that it's because of these things you see in this side. Here you see concentrated economy. We know that this issue has been a challenge for many countries so many years. You know the geographic matters, uneven economic development, constructions, uneven growth in several areas, and so on. This causes limited interdependency in each area, which cause unstable provisions. We have to minimize this issue. We need to build a system to maintain and keep the provision in a stable mode. Meanwhile, the demand and several areas are high to keep the stock availability in safe mode, which cause so many one-way transport direction in high cost because the reverse logistics are unprepared, low asset utilization, and limited sharing economy. In other challenge, we saw that lack of brand war logistics is one major issue nowadays. This causes challenges to fulfill customers' requests, and at the same time, to anticipate out of the stock, we call it push and pull system. Separated information and unorganized data makes it difficult to gather information and take decisions. Put information on supply and demand commodities makes it hard to create machine learning to enhance our service level in effective and efficient. Okay, next. Okay, started from the BGR. BGR is appointed for fertilizer stockholder by the government in 1977 to serve fertilizer needs to agriculture and plantations. Currently, BGR services have developed into integrated logistic and supply chain services based on information technology, which makes us have a good experience in network all over place, nationality and internationality. Okay, next. And this our service. We have the command center and also the contact center to serve our customers. Okay, next. Okay, the BGR deliver our service life, maintaining scaling up our service for import custom clearance, supporting for export custom clearance, handling export shipment to overseas, handling import shipment from overseas with the term of as work, providing cost of goods sold weekly for accounting purposes. This is part of our services. Okay, next. Okay, so now we would like to propose something to all of us. We all agree that synergies and collaboration is what we need. And there BGR proposed with the 5 business model. First, we are talking about the business transactional, cross-selling, producer from us and logistic or private companies. And the second thing is the joint ventures. 2 or more parties agree to pool their resources for the purpose of accomplishing a specific task like a new project or any other business activity. And then maybe can be a joint merger on in the logistics sector. And then second, the third is joint operations. And then the fourth is investment, working capital investment in new project and other activities. And the last thing is about the partnerships, like a sister city. So maybe both of the company maybe can be the company from the Latin America and Caribbean can be have the sister city with us. Okay then. Okay. I think from my side is quite enough. I'd like to wrap up my presentations in one conclusion that the connectivity and its supporting infrastructures and the existence of suitable logistic supports and transportation services, as well as cooperation in the sector, will narrow the gap between Indonesia and INA-LAC, reduce the geographic barrier with this best practice as I mentioned above, to increase the service level and to give the best for the user experience. That's all for now. Thank you for your attention. I hope that this will be useful for everyone who's listening this seminar. I say thank you. I'm giving back to Mr. Nur. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Pak Kunchoro. Very concise. And definitely brought up a few impediments and issues that we can discuss in the Q&A section. Thank you. Last, we have Agus, who's the Managing Director of Indonesia Exim Bank, to give his views and opening remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start my presentation with our mandate. As mandated in our Special Act number 2, 2009, Indonesia Exim Bank was established to support national export program through providing financing, guarantee, insurance, as well as the advisory services. And that kind of facility can be delivered in the form of the general assignment, also called as a commercially viable, because the funding coming from the market, and the other one is special assignment from the government, the funding coming from government through the capital injection. To do our role, there are some function. We are as a facilitator, accelerator, aggregator, and arranger. Of course, in terms of the financing, guarantee, insurance, and advisory services. In the connectivity, Indonesia Exim Bank has several experience in financing infrastructure project abroad, carried out by our SOE, namely airport construction in Vietnam and Timor-Leste, other construction project such as social house in Algeria, apartment in Dubai, presidential palace in Niger, and renovation of the Grand Mosque in Saudi Arabia, whilst we also support the domestic import export activities, where we extended our financing to several transportation infrastructure projects such as seaport and airport. The next slide, please. To provide funding needs to support the infrastructure planning development, in this case logistic and warehousing, Indonesia Exim Bank can provide scheme first in terms of investment and working capital financing, or second through the providing the credit guarantee to the bank that will provide the loan. Third is conducting collaboration in the form of financing, guarantee, and insurance with other Exim Bank or our counterpart bank to support international trade transaction between the Indonesian company and companies in countries in Latin America and Caribbean. We noticed that based on the Global Competitive Report 2019, several countries in Latin America and Caribbean have already achieved a strong competitiveness performance, such as Chile is the most competitive economy and open market, followed by Mexico, Uruguay, Colombia, Peru, Brazil, and those countries could be the Latin America and Caribbean trade hub trade hub for the distribution of goods in transit. This slide, please. To support this kind of connectivity, we have some correspondent bank in Chile with the Banco of Credito, in Peru, Banco Continental, Scotia Peru, Banco Nam Peru, Banco International Peru. Besides, we have counterpart, which is Global Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, HSBC, Citibank, Commerce Bank, MUFG, ICBC, OCBC, NZ, and FAB. And also we do have a cooperation with other Exim Bank and multilateral agency. We think that with the connectivity in place, we do have the player already trying to enter the market in Latin America and Caribbean, and the product is already demanded. All we can do is just supporting them by providing the financing or guarantee or insurance. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Agus. So obviously, Exim Bank is very well positioned to improve the connectivity between the regions. It has quite a number of facilities and tools. So perhaps I will pose the first question and take my advantage as the moderator to be able to do that and address Ambassador Cardenas, as you mentioned, the elephant in the room, which I think is really the role of government here and how it can improve connectivity or how it has not improved connectivity. So maybe first from you as ambassador from Peru and Latin America, how do you see the efforts and the performance of the government from Indonesia in being able to improve connectivity?
I think the general idea is that if you want to improve anything related to connectivity or implementation of the agreements that we have signed with Indonesia, the problem real that we observe as international observers is that the process of taking decision is very slow. So as also one of the panelists mentioned, that you can notice that there are two different levels of velocity when one decision is taken by the government. The highest authority, they push one idea, but the problem is with the bureaucracy that is below. So I think Indonesia is changing that mentality, talking about what I announced in my remarks, that we are noticing that there is an effort to change that attitude, that the connectivity can be improved much more if we change this the way how the decision taking is slow here. I think to be competitive, we have to be very fast. In our case, in Latin America, we have a good example, the Asia Pacific, the Pacific Alliance countries. In less than 8 years, we diminished the process of decision taking from 2 to 10, that fast. Less bureaucracy, we take a decision in less than 2 or 3 months. We begin to move the machinery, and there is no bureaucracy, there is no secretariat, and the orders go straight to the office that has to improve the the material is. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So overall, I think it's been positive development from the government here to, especially with regards to the new omnibus law also to facilitate, especially investment. So
exactly, and I would like to insist again that I think everybody is expecting how this new omnibus law is going to help the environment of trade, especially and investment. So would be a good idea in the case of my colleagues of Latin America and Caribbean, if we can organize one just virtual meeting with the specialists, and we can ask in a private section, a private session in a way, what are really these rules that are going to be changed? How we benefit, and we can transmit directly to our countries, to our Chamber of Commerce, to the business associations, to the government. That is a good idea, because this is a real structural reform.
yes, thank you very much. I think that's a very good idea to have a knowledge sharing session, especially on as we go into the implementation of the law. Yeah, especially targeted to investors and business people from the Latin America and Caribbean countries. I think it would be a very good follow-up to this. Okay, now, so we've heard some remarks and comments about the Indonesian government. So I would like to ask also what are the views from our side about how Latin America governments are facilitating trade and investment and improving connectivity. Maybe from the business practitioner, Pak Kunchoro, how do you see Latin America governments performing? Are they making it easier to be connected? And you mentioned some initiatives like joint ventures, joint operation investments. Are you finding it easy to do that as an Indonesian business going to Latin America?
Yeah, okay. So far, we are quite appreciated, yeah, with the governments in Latin America. Yeah, it's quite easy. Yeah, and then I think we can improve between both of us from the Indonesian, especially my company with all the company in Latin America and Caribbean.
That's very good. So I think it's both sides are working. Governments are working hard to improve and facilitate trade and investment. So that's good news. So I would like to open up to the floor if there's any questions to the panelists. Ambassador Cardenas just reminded me that this panel is the only thing holding us back from lunch. So maybe we'll have just one more question if there's any last questions. Perhaps
Hello. Yeah, I have a question here from the audience. Actually, my name is. I'm over here, just on your left corner.
If you can identify yourself, please.
Well, I'm Sadi Bimantara. I'm from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but it's not my question. It's a question from the audience, which I would like to read, if you don't mind.
Please, go ahead.
First question is, a good connectivity can reduce supply chain costs and increase competitiveness. How can Indonesia and Latin American Caribbean improve the connectivity? Example, shipping network and transportation infrastructure and system to ensure a quick and efficient cross-border access in order to enhance trade and investment. For the Indonesia Exim Bank, how can Indonesia Exim Bank play a role in infrastructure development? And the second question is that, what are the challenges in improving the connectivity? What are the solutions to address it? And for Indonesia Exim Bank, how can Indonesia Exim Bank provide feasible financing solutions in infrastructure planning and development? So those two questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Pak Agus, maybe you can.
Okay. Thank you. In dealing with the infrastructure development between Indonesia and Latin America and Caribbean, as I mentioned before, that we can support through providing the financing, guarantee, or insurance. And actually, we do have a special assignment from the government to support infrastructure project in the Africa, South Asia, and Middle East region. It is necessary that, and we do hope that the government will expand the National Interest Account program to include Latin America and Caribbean to have this kind of program for the Latin America and Caribbean, as it is done for the Africa, South Asia, and Middle East region. And for the second question, regarding how we provide the feasible financing, actually it can be done through simple financing, plain vanilla, which is we provide the investment and working capital, or we can provide the credit enhancement. So we provide the credit enhancement to the bank that will provide the loan to the project, or we can do the collaboration among the several financial institution and bank, including Exim Bank and our counterpart in the Latin America and Caribbean, to support the infrastructure planning and development project. That's maybe I can share that kind of correspondent. I already mentioned that in Chile we have Banco de Credito, and Peru we have Banco Continental, Scotia Bank, Banco NAM, and Banco International, as well as the Global Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Bagus. So I think, as was mentioned just now, and also in his opening remarks, that Exim Bank is an institution that can facilitate and improve connectivity. So it has quite a lot of tools and facilities. I think it is quite ready to be able to facilitate this process of increasing connectivity. So it's good that it seems like we have all the necessary tools, but we just have to go out and, like Nike says, just do it. So now it's time to actually, after a very, very good 3 sessions of panelists and talks this morning, that we go out and actually do some of these things that we have talked about here. So if there's no more questions from the floor, I would like to just give 30 seconds also for each of the panelists just to give closing remarks so we can wrap up. Ambassador Cardenas.
Just insist on the concept that I mentioned, that after COVID-19, everything has changed in the world. So we need to change our mentality. We need to change our mindset. No longer business as usual. We have to think, you have to be more creative. The world is different. The world is now just for the winners. Because what COVID, as I mentioned, also that it is a game changer. So let's keep on that idea.
Thank you. Very, very good and precise remarks, and definitely the right way to look at how we get out of this situation and move forward. So next, I'd like to give Yudo 30 seconds to give remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Nur. I totally agree with the ambassador, Julio, that the COVID is a game changer. It affects all the every things in our, from Indonesia to the global world, and also with this kind, I can give you the information that regarding the maybe the agency approval. First, we the the user needs about around 4 days for the issuance of the agency approval. But now we continue the development and the improvement, so the agency approval for the foreign shipping to come to Indonesia is right now is no more than 2 business days. Even though in several places, let's say we still developing in Batam and Tanjung Balai, Karimun, the agency approval could be less than 24 hours. So the one important things for from the shipping connectivity point of view is about the cargo itself. So I encourage all the businessmen to just match up with other business partners around the world, that in this case from the Latin America and Caribbean, just to see how the possibilities, how to about the cargoes that could be trade off. Because in Indonesia, from we have more than adequate number of shipping that's available to carry all the cargoes from Indonesia to Latin America, or from Latin America to Indonesia. That my conclusion, Pak Nur. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Yudo. Good to hear that the Ministry of Transportation of Indonesia is making it easier and facilitating the movement of cargo, especially sea freight, in and out of Indonesia. Thank you. Next, Pak Kunchoro, maybe your last remarks.
Okay. Hopefully, Indonesia, Latin America, and Caribbean can make the best collaborations, to seek bigger opportunities in the futures. I think that's all. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Kunchoro. So we have Pak Kunchoro's company, Bigar Logistics, and perhaps many other private companies also, and as well as state-owned companies ready to do business with Latin America and Caribbean. So we hope that this is a good start of that process. And last, Pak Agus from Exim Bank.
Okay. As we do have a player, the market, and the product, Indonesian Exim Bank is ready to support the export to Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we have a very, very well-equipped institution in Indonesia that is ready to help facilitate exports and other trade to not only Latin America, but the rest of the world. But I think here it stands ready with many types of facilities and products. So thank you again for your time this morning. And I hope you found this last panel quite a good way to wrap up this morning's discussion. And again, I would like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Republic of Indonesia for giving me the chance to moderate this panel. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a big round of applause for all speakers and moderators of the panel discussions. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the panel session of INA-LAC Business Forum 2020. But we kindly remind you that INA-LAC Business Forum 2020 is not over yet. Later this evening at 8 p.m. until tomorrow, we will have rounds of one-on-one business meeting, which will bring together business people from Indonesia and Latin America and the Caribbean to meet virtually through INA-LAC Business Forum digital platform. The official closing of INA-LAC Business Forum will be held virtually on the 11th of November 2020 at 9 a.m. Jakarta time by the Director General of American and European Affairs. We would like to thank all our counterparts, both from the public and private sectors, for their full support, which allowed the success of this event. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly be informed that luncheon for all participants hosted by the Director General of American and European Affairs will be served in Ballroom 1. Once again, thank you for your kind presence and participation. We wish you a fruitful business interaction and stay healthy. Thank you.